I just said, hi, folks. And you know what? Everybody goes nuts. I have water because I've been talking way too much, but I think my voice will hold up nicely. You see these things right here? Could you just turn them off entirely, please? Don't be tempted by that white screen. It's after hours now. So just please turn them off. I'm going to do it right now, as a matter of fact, so you can all follow along. Look at this. I'm sliding the power off. Oh, done. So please do the same. Thank you. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to opening night of the 12th annual Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. Here at beautiful Dana Auditorium on the campus of Middlebury College. So I am Lloyd Commissar, co-founder of this festival, along with Jay Craven, uh, our esteemed artistic director. We want to welcome in the audiences at the Marquee Theater tonight and at the Accent 232 screening room, live on Zoom. Technological feat. We're surrounded by history on the stage tonight, reminding us of what has come before. But for right now, in the present, we have a spectacular festival lined up for you over the next few days. Some of you may have already seen a great film earlier today, but tonight, well, tonight is a very special event as we welcome festival honoree and the brilliant creator of Hadestown, Middlebury's own Aeneas Mitchell. Okay, well, thank you very much for being with us, Aeneas. Really, really great. Thank you. Now, as many of you are aware, I am not known for my brevity, but I will make an exception tonight because we got a lot to get to. So it takes, I think, a marvelous community and a huge amount of support to build a festival like this each year. And I'd like to sincerely thank our fabulous sponsors, our generous donors, our host families, our numerous volunteers, our venue managers, and of course, our graphic designer, and of course, our amazing staff, this little band of warriors who came together over the last 3 months to make magic. You'll meet them in a minute, and they will charm you, believe me. The festival has traveled through a challenging passage these past few months, and I want to take a moment to praise and recognize our board of directors who so ably and diligently guided us through it all. Could I ask our board members to please stand and accept our collective thanks for a job well done? Could we change slides, please? Thank you. So, in my opinion, the future looks exceedingly bright for the festival. And one inspiring barometer of that, the optimism I feel, is the response we've received to the MNFF Endowment Fund campaign. We started this quiet effort to make the festival permanent back in late 2024. And thanks to a wonderful lead gift from Michelle Hernandez and Bruce Bayless, thank you both so much. Where are you? And the investments of other generous folks in our community who have come aboard since, we are thrilled to announce that $500,000 has been committed to the endowment fund as we gather here on this beautiful evening. And we're ready to keep that momentum going. So tonight, the quiet period officially ends. And so you can come talk to me if you'd like to join us in this campaign. You could do that tonight, or tomorrow, or next month, or next year. Whenever that time comes, I will be here. We can change. Thank you. Oh, look at these people. Yeah. Now to our MNFF 12 team, the dedicated group of folks who brought all of this together. So, where are you all? You ready to come on up? Okay, well, come on down over here. Come on down, Bob Barker. Okay. All right. Wait, what? Hold. Right. All right. We're almost ready. All right. So first up, for our outstanding interns from Middlebury College, rising senior, and a film and American Studies major, Molly Kaplan. Come right in front of those. Go right in front of the chairs. That's good. Okay. You can see how much we rehearsed this. A rising senior, pardon me, from the University of Vermont, rising senior and an English and film major, Natalie Richardson Wymore. From Middlebury College, rising senior and a film and economics major, Sophia Shen. And from the University of Vermont, rising senior and a film and French major, Will Harvey. Looking good, Will. I wish to editorialize and say that this right here is the best group of interns I have had the pleasure to work with over all the years of our festival, period. Okay? Right here. And then there is our simply amazing associate producer, Annika Ellis. This is Annika, who patiently answered hundreds and hundreds of your questions. Annika, who wrote countless emails of explanation. Annika, who brilliantly kept us all on track. And Annika, who chose the purple palette of color that infuses our beautiful poster and our logo and our swell merchandise this year. She is a graduate of the University of Vermont and a former MNFF intern. Annika has brought her very best every day without fail. So please give a rousing round of applause to all these exceptional people. And as I've said pretty much every year, without them, there is no festival. They have been of immense help to me as we sort of regrouped and produced something really good for all of you. Thank you all. And you can go back out where you can. Okay, that's the end of my primary stuff. I'd like to offer next to the stage the president of Middlebury College, Ian Balcom.
So I'm also going to be quite brief, but we can't go any further before saying thank you to Lloyd. Um, this 12th opening night doesn't happen without you. The first opening night doesn't happen without you. The vision that you have brought to this, your sense of artistic purpose, your spirit of commitment to this community, your dedication to the arts, and your willingness to be called into the breach. So, Lloyd, we're very, very grateful to you. Thank you again. Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. It's my immense pleasure to join and welcome you to the opening night of the 12th annual Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. I'd like to take a moment also to salute Andy Mitchell, Jay Craven, and this amazing team that we just met for once again producing such a stellar festival. 5 extraordinary days of films, remarkable guests, and special events, all offering us the occasion to celebrate emerging filmmakers. It is a joy to be with you, and thank you for being here. And special thanks to all the artists and filmmakers in the audience. We need you for the stories you tell, the worlds you reveal, the questions you ask. We need you for the gift of beauty and the gift of the unsettling. We need you for the intelligence you bring to your craft, critical intelligence, creative intelligence, technological intelligence, civic intelligence, human intelligence. We need you because you spark us more fully into life and because a vibrant democracy can't live without the arts. That has always been true. It is urgently true today. Because while democracy is grounded in law and elections and constitutional protections, It is more than that. It is a way of living in the world together, orienting ourselves to the call of a common good together, experiencing our entanglement in the lives and fates of one another. And that requires more than law. It requires the ability to imagine and experience the richness, the wonder, the precariousness, the worth, sorrow, joy, hopes, and possibilities of lives and worlds other than our own. And that, among many other things, is what art gives us, and why any healthy democracy or any healthy college is one where the arts live and thrive, bold and unfettered, constantly vibrant, constantly new. Thank you for giving us that gift. Can we thank the artists? And thank you, Aeneas. Thank you for your work. Thank you for coming home, Middlebury College graduate of the class of 2004. You are a marvel, and it is a delight to host you tonight for this conversation and this screening of Hadestown. Welcome home, Aeneas. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, Film Festival. It's great to be here.
Okay, well, thank you, Ian. And thank you, everyone at the college, for your generous and sustained support. And you know who you are here tonight. Um, Let me now invite our dear friend and the owner of IPJ Real Estate, a true patron of the arts in our community, and a longtime presenting sponsor, Amy Ryan. Amy.
Thank you, Lloyd. Um, we are always incredibly grateful to be given this opportunity. And Ian, thank you for thanking the artists who make this festival really come to life. Um, to quote the last American that everyone loved, Dolly Parton, find out who you are and do it on purpose. And nobody does that more than the people who contribute to and make this festival happen for our community. We have an incredible place here. If you haven't been outside of Middlebury, I encourage you to do that. But while you're here, please enjoy our restaurants, our coffee shops, our new library, which is opening on Saturday, which we're very excited about. Um, this this community really does put its heart and soul into everything we have to offer, whether it's recreational opportunities, the arts, whatever it might be. So we're incredibly grateful for that. It's how we do what we do. It's how we thrive and are successful. So we appreciate all of you and what you bring to this festival. So thank you.
Hey, thank you, Amy. Uh, and thank you for all you have done for our festival and so many organizations in this community. Believe me, you'll see IPJ's logo on essential events throughout the year. Um, let's have this is a great pleasure for me, frankly. So we'd like to have our MNFF managing producer, Andy Mitchell, come to the stage now. Andy.
Thank you, Lloyd. I second everything Ian said about Lloyd. He made downtown a real mess today, though, you know. And thank you to the best community in the world. I've been thinking a lot about what I wanted to say up here in my first address to the festival as managing producer. I'm typically a person of fewer words, and that's why I was a cameraman. I'm way more comfortable behind the camera. So this is kind of like exposure therapy for me. So I'll keep it brief as well. I had the luxury this summer of watching, and it was a luxury, of watching Lloyd and Annika and Jay and Simeon and all of our amazing interns build these next 5 days out of nothing. It's not a small lift. It takes passion, it takes perseverance, it takes a little bit of stress, but you disguise that so none of you should see any of that, hopefully. But they all do it for the same reason that we're all here. It's a love of film, and it's a love of a good story. Story is powerful. Story moves you. I'm a huge crier. I cry at commercials. Story inspires you, it scares you, it makes you think. And if done correctly, story can change the way you look at something or someone even after the lights come back on. And story is more than just words in a script. Story is light and shadow that filmmakers build frame by frame, decision by decision. Story is in the sound, and just as importantly, in the silence. What's not said, what's left out. Story is a magic that you can't always predict, but you know it when you see it. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. I think here. So I am thrilled to be a part of an institution devoted to the art of telling stories. And I am very psyched to help build the foundation that they've built so strong so far and to help innovate and evolve for our changing world, because as Ian said, it is changing. And to continue to champion the voices, the new voices of those with stories to tell, because you never know, the next um, John Wilson might actually be here already. So thanks very much for coming and enjoy the next few days because there's a lot to see. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Andy, and thank you. Well, I want to wish you sincerely all the best as you continue your MNFF journey in the years ahead. And I hope you'll prosper and really enjoy yourself as we continue to make this a special event. Um, and last, but seriously, never least, please welcome to the stage the co-founder and artistic director of the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival, Jay Craven.
Thank you. An auspicious occasion. Have we got a festival for you? Next 5 days. This schedule, I think, is really bursting at the seams. Really a great selection of films. Who here's for the first time? Anybody here for the first time? I mean, this I know is a pretty tried and true group, but a few of you, yes. And filmmakers are in a remote site for the most part. Are there any filmmakers here in this room tonight? A couple of you are. Good. Welcome to the event. And one other question. Who has seen Hadestown on Broadway? Oh, geez, wow. Okay. Who has not seen Hadestown? Oh, geez, wow. Okay, this is exciting. Um, for the next 5 days, Middlebury becomes slightly different. People on sidewalks talk about documentary. Complete strangers ask each other, "What have you seen?"
Sorry. No, it's so funny.
People develop strong
They took
opinions
it.
on ideas that they didn't
Okay.
list
Yeah,
hours
they
earlier.
took it to it. That's okay. Yeah, yeah.
And so for these
Projecting.
5 days, we ask you to do something that is increasingly radical in American life. Sit in the dark with strangers, take a leap of faith, look beyond what's visible, and share an experience of open-minded, generous community.
Do my
This is
laptop
our
so that
12th
I
year.
don't get
We started with a
crazy
very simple
text
idea.
messages.
There were literally thousands of imaginative filmmakers making first and second films.
Oh,
And
yeah.
frankly, it's very hard for
Yeah.
them to
How long did it
get
take to switch?
a number of our filmmakers here tonight are playing their first festival ever. So we said, let's bring them
No.
to Vermont. And then you came. And that's the part that is the most important to the success, because I would argue that a film really does not exist until it is experienced by an audience. That closes the loop on the whole filmmaking experience. It exists in isolation until that moment. But here we get to bring it alive. And I'll tell you something else. Every audience I've ever experienced is distinct. Even for seeing the same film, two different audiences will respond to it differently based on who's in the room, how they respond, where they laugh. It doesn't matter. It's unique. And I can't imagine a better way to begin tonight, to begin this year's festival, than a work of art that began rather improbably right here in Vermont. The the um, the film we're going to see is, of course, based on the play, and it started very small. It grew, it changed, it traveled, eventually made its way to Broadway and around the world. But tonight, it comes back to Vermont. And even better, the person who dreamed the whole thing up has come with it. And we couldn't be more pleased to have Aeneas with us tonight. Thank you. In just a couple minutes, Aeneas and I in just a couple of minutes, Aeneas and I will sit down and talk about the play, the film, how it came into being, and what happens when something that begins as a very small, personal, artistic idea takes on a life and grows to something larger than anyone could have imagined. So, welcome to the festival. Turn off your phones, talk to strangers, take a chance on something you know absolutely nothing about. And tonight, we'll begin with Hadestown, something that Vermont knew about before the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Just a little housekeeping, and then Jay and Aeneas will come to the stage. So, following the conclusion of our presentation of Hadestown the musical, you are all invited to the after party at Axon Center just down Old Chapel Road. Axon is less than 5 minutes away from here. When you exit the auditorium, you can go directly across the street. You go through the pillars of Old Chapel Road, and you'll start seeing signs, including one that's right in front of the Axon building. It's a sale flag, actually, just like you see at car dealers. Anyway, never mind. All right, to our friends down at the Marquee, it's a 15-minute walk up the hill from town, or preferably a short drive. So you just come up College Street to Old Chapel Road and you turn left. Speaking of parties, we've had a change in the schedule, so I'm going to tell you tonight because it impacts tomorrow night. I want to let all the pass holders know that our outdoor evening party at Town Hall Theater tomorrow night will be moving indoors at Town Hall Theater because the weather forecast looks a bit grim, including lightning. So there's just no point in being outdoors. We'll just have to party inside, you know? It starts about 9:15. There will be music, there will be food from Mexico and Vermont, and there'll be good times to share. And now to kick things off, well, let's bring Jay and Aeneas to the stage for what promises to be a really very interesting conversation before we do the screening. All right, folks, it's all yours. Come on up.
Okay. This is the big time.
Check, check.
So, first of all, thank you for coming tonight. I mean, this is a dream come true. As you know, I've been searching for this possibility for more than a year, and I'm so thrilled that we can make it happen, coincidental with the release of the film.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
amazing to be here. It feels very full circle. I know a lot of faces in this crowd. And yeah, it is very special to talk about this and get to share this piece that did begin in Vermont and really grew up in Vermont. So, yeah.
And you and I've worked together a couple times before too, and that's always been a thrill. So thank you.
You put me on a Nico Case gig.
That's right.
It was so,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
exciting.
and our little radio show. Remember that at the Flynn Theater?
I do.
Queen City Radio Hour? Yeah, those were the days. When I think of Broadway, I think of the plays that really were historic in some way. And the plays that come to mind that really endure in the imagination, a chorus line, Hamilton, Hair, um, Angels in America, West Side Story. And these are plays that I consider historic and I think are generally considered historic for what they say and how they say it. And Hadestown is definitely in that pantheon at this point. And it's substantial, enduring, and continues. It's been on Broadway for 7 years, and it's still full house. Audiences coming to New York, and it's also touring the world at this point. But Hadestown has an additional quality that none of these other plays have, which is how it came into existence. These are plays that were conceived, there were investment structures, there were tryouts. This is a play that started in a small town with a small idea. The opening night at the Labor Hall in Barry, Vermont. Okay. Take us to that night. What would we have seen if we had seen Hadestown in Barry when you first performed it?
Okay. I would have been in my early 20s then, I think. And I was living in Montpelier. And there were a lot of other young creative types living in Montpelier and around there. Um, and we kind of banded together to do this DIY, I call it a DIY community theater project. Like I had sort of had the notion to do something like an opera or a folk opera. This is 2005. And I reached out to Vermont Community Foundation for a grant that they were offering and fully did not expect to get it. And then I got it and was like, oh shit, like I have to do it now. And so pulled together these friends, some like really important collaborators. Michael Chorney is a local hero, lives in Lincoln, was the first orchestrator and worked on the show all the way through Broadway. Ben Matchik, early director, came from the bread and puppet theater world up in the Northeast Kingdom. And then all the kind of characters in the early version of the show were just friends from different bands around Vermont. I think we rehearsed the show in 2 weeks. The other thing is, I got the grant and then I put tickets on sale for the show that I hadn't written yet.
Sure.
I was like,
Par for the course.
yeah, like young 20s, like sure, I'll do this thing. And then I had to write some songs. And the songs were it was much less material back then. But some of the iconic songs were from that very first, iteration. That Why We Built the Wall was in there, and When the Chips Are Down, and yeah, a lot of the songs that I think of as foundational were from that very first version. Um, it was we were like in love with it,
Yeah.
I had this memory of I think that first year we just did the Barry Labor Hall, and we did Virgin's Opera House. And we were driving a U-Haul full of sets and props like down to Virgin's to set up. And I was carrying, together with Ben, the director, like large set pieces into the building. And I realized they were light, like they were light because I was so in love with what we were up to. And it was, I thought about that Shakespeare quote from Romeo and Juliet, where he goes, "On love's light wings did I or perch these walls," which feels
Yeah,
connected in various ways to Hadestown.
absolutely. And so then you had a second sort of tour where you played Higher Ground, and you also went to Boston, I think, and had a date there, which you rented a school bus to get to Boston. Was that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It was painted silver.
Painted silver. You got to paint the school bus. Well, that is a real sign of ownership and
I
power
think
at that point.
it was already silver. I don't want to.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Um, and so at the conclusion of that second tour, where did you think Hadestown was headed? What were you going to do with it from that point?
Yeah. The next step for me was I really wanted to make a record of the music, and it was evolving sort of from year one to year two in Vermont. And then I wrote a bunch of more material for this record that I spent a long time working on. It was Michael Chorney's arrangements, and then also Todd Sikafus produced it, and he later became an arranger orchestrator as well. And then we ended up like incredible players from New York played on this record. Jim Black plays drums. Is like really special group of people. And then I just thought, who could I ask to sing? In my dream world, who could sing these parts? And at the time, I was working with Ani DeFranco on her record label, Righteous Babe. And I asked if she would sing the role of Persephone, and she said yes. And she hadn't even heard the music, and she said yes. And so that was a real vote of confidence. And then she's tight with Greg Brown, who's this folk singer from Iowa, who ended up singing Hades with this iconic deep register. And then I was I was offered an opening spot on a tour with Bon Iver, the very first Bon Iver record for Emma forever ago, and it was in Europe. And I heard Justin sing, and I was like, "That's Orpheus! Like, I have to get this guy." And so it was one of those moments. I mean, I think this is true making films probably, and also making albums that like sometimes it just all lines up. and sometimes
Right.
not, you know. And this was one of the, it felt very charmed, like the making of this record. And because of who the guest singers were, it sort of traveled the world on its own legs because people were like, oh, Anita Franco, Justin Vernon. And then they got into the songs, they got into the story. And I think it made a lot of things possible in terms of the next steps for the
Right.
piece.
So, and the next steps, was that when you went to New York and started really trying to find the path to get it up on its feet? And was going to Broadway your goal at that point?
Right. It was more meandering than that.
Yeah.
It was sort of like for years we toured it as a music, as a concert piece, kind of like a radio novella style. We would have guest singers sing the songs, and I would sort of narrate what was happening on stage. I always wanted to develop it further into a full length piece of, you know, theater.
Mhm.
And it did take moving to New York. Um, and, you know, to be honest, I'm not a Broadway person. I didn't, you know, I'm not a theater kid per se. And a lot of the stuff I saw, I like admire the craft, but it's not for me. And it wasn't until I saw this show called Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812 by Dave Malloy that was directed by Rachel Chavkin. I saw it in a small theater and I was like, who's that? Like, who's that director? Because this, it felt Vermonty, it felt downtown. It also was so accessible that I thought this could go to Broadway. And then impossibly it did. That show went to Broadway. And I started working with Rachel in like 2013. And with a couple of producers also that had materialized after many meetings that went nowhere. And then it was a 6-year process, I guess, before we ended up on Broadway. So we first went off Broadway at the New York Theater Workshop in 2016. Then we went to Canada, to the Citadel Theater in Edmonton. Then we went to the National in London. And we finally then went to Broadway. And I will say that both New York Theater Workshop and the National, the only reason we got on their schedule is they had a last minute cancellation. And they were like, anyone got a musical? We were like, we're ready. Put us in, coach. So it was a lot of, and there were workshops. It was really, and like you said, there's an ecosystem of making theater in New York, and it works a certain way.
Right.
Like there are equity actors, and there are stage managers, and there are like workshops that are 29 hours, or you know, it's a 2-week workshop, and there's rules surrounding all of that. And it was a big learning process for me. How, you know, what's my role in the room? And I had, you know, a lot of the piece, or the sort of spirit of the piece, had been developed in a much different way, which was in this just kind of wild and woolly, like Vermont. Everyone's like cabin fevered out, and they're like, what can we do? What can we do that would be creative and fun? Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you thought it wasn't going to happen and that you might have to give up on it?
I'm trying to answer that honestly. Like there were many moments where I felt despair about the process, and especially it's always exciting to be in a room with actors and with collaborators, and that you sort of keep the wind in each other's sails, and you have sort of occasions to rise to, people to show up for. But when it was just me at the desk, you know, in New York for some of those years, I worked in, I actually shared a studio, a writing studio with Dave Malloy, who wrote The Great Comet. And it was essentially a drum closet in like a band practice space. And there's no windows. It was just like concrete, you know, bathroom basically. And I just was banging my head against the wall um, trying to write one more stanza that might make more sense dramaturgically or something to move this thing forward. And those were like, there was some dark nights of the soul. But it always felt that there was more to there was another vein to tap. Like there was more to explore with this piece. And I think it's a testament, honestly, to the mythology, like the depth of the myth, that it kept feeling new, it kept giving and feeling relevant in new ways for what was essentially like a 13-year period.
Yeah, very long. And what drew you to mythology as a source rather than contemporary? I mean, that's unusual in and of itself. That something that is from so long ago would breathe new life and make it a popular entertainment. I mean, what drew you to the mythology of Orpheus and Eurydice?
Yeah, people have asked if I'm like a classics person, and I'm not. I remember reading this story in a children's illustrated book of mythology, the D'Aulaire's Book of Myths, when I was a kid, and I just loved the story. And I heard the Coen brothers said in an interview one time that, they made that movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, but they never read the Odyssey. They just kind of knew that, oh, there's a Cyclops, like, oh, there's the sirens,
Yeah.
throw it in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a way in which I think the Orpheus myth, it's very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about it that you don't get. You're sort of all set up for this Hollywood ending that you don't get,
Mm-hmm.
that feels it's anatomically incorrect, and somehow people keep coming back to it. All that said about Orpheus myth, I think for me, I've always just been drawn to the old stories. Like in my singer-songwriter work, like I have done a lot of kind of reimagining of traditional texts, the old ballads and stuff. And I just love that. I love to find a song that's like hundreds and hundreds of years old and feel it today, be able to stand in my shoes, now and find a way to sing it that feels real to me now, and imagine someone might sing this 100 years from now and it will mean the same thing. And I think there's something very grounding about that, to feel like um, just sort of held by the ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in a world where so many things are fleeting and temporary, it's cultural and rooted, and that in itself is, I think, one of the things that's very exciting about it. It has these roots. Um, who was the hardest character for you to write?
Orpheus by a long shot. Like, yeah. Yeah. Some of the characters are just so fun, like Hades and the Fates, and actually, and Persephone also. They have this sort of ruined, jaded quality that is fun to write for. Um, Orpheus is tough because he's an optimist, he's a dreamer, he has this insane faith um, in the possibility for change and in what his art can do. And for a long time, I think because it felt innate to the mythology that he's an optimist, he's a believer, he believes he can go to the underworld, sing a song, and bring back his dead wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a way in which the character came across for many years as like kind of a cocky guy who's like, I'm gonna do, this.
Mm.
And nobody could really like him because of that. They're like, why should we care about this
Mhm.
guy?
Mm.
And so there was a lot of work in terms of reframing him as more of an innocent and sort of like a touched and eccentric artist who is tapped into a frequency that like nobody else can hear.
Mhm.
And that's his gift. And then he also has a weakness, which is he can't really live in the world the way it is. He sort of has a hard time. He can see the way the world could be, but he has a hard time living in the world as it is. And that once we hit upon that for him, because it was a lot of things besides writing. It was also his costume. It was his affect, his choreography, all that stuff.
Physicality, yeah.
It helped for him to make more sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, you wrote one of the signature songs, "The Wall," before Donald Trump was elected president. Did he get the idea from you?
I hope not. No, that was such a surprise. I wrote that song in '05 probably, and I remember at the time, because also there are these climate change themes, climate chaos themes in the show that there was an inkling of, obviously, in 2006, like that, but they have come to feel more and more. I remember in 2006 that song happened very quickly. It was like, usually I'm very slow, very methodical, and that song just kind of burst out of me before I even understood what it was about. Then when I looked at it, it felt to me like there was something going through my mind in those days about like, well, what if the climate becomes less and less habitable? What if there's large swaths of the world population that are seeking higher ground and they're banging at the door of the places of relative wealth and security? Who among us that are in those places of relative wealth and security are not going to kind of want to be behind a wall, And that's sort of where that came from. And I think it was important to me that the song is a series of questions. Like it is definitely a political song. Because it's an insane circular logic that this, despot basically is back and forth incanting with his citizens. But it also it's a series of questions rather than a statement. And yeah, it was the song that, like, once it was written, people would ask me to sing at my songwriter shows, like, all the time. I sang it thousands of times, and I never expected that it would ever feel new again. And then when our current president was campaigning for the first election, it was as if it was verbatim, like, because it was an incantation, it was a call and response, which is what the song is. And it was intense for me because then suddenly people thought the song was about him. They thought Hadestown was about him. And I'm like, no, you know. Um, I think ultimately the song is about an archetype. A wall is an archetype.
Yeah.
It works. It's a image that works on people when they feel scared and vulnerable. And leaders will invoke it again and again when it's to their benefit. And that's happened in history many times. And this was just another one of those times. It's interesting that then when his first presidency was over, the song went back to feeling like kind of like an archetype thing.
Mhm.
And then now it means something different. So it's, yeah,
Yeah,
it keeps
that's
evolving.
what's extraordinary about the play is that its relevance. I mean, I saw it at Higher Ground, whatever, 15 years ago, and that it was relevant then, and it's relevant in an entirely new way now, and that's exciting. So, just we want to get the movie rolling, but how is the movie different? What is it about the movie that you find fresh, interesting? I mean, of course, you've lived with the show for so long. What's your take on the movie?
Well, I'm so excited to be sharing it with a wider audience. I mean, it is very special. I ran into like a childhood friend, Skylar, and he said he'd never seen the show. And I'm like, yes, it's accessible now for people that wouldn't otherwise, get to New York or happen to catch it when it was passing through. And I love that for it. And it's it was very beautifully filmed, I think. Like the Brett Sullivan, the director who works at this company called Steam, based out of London, they do a lot of live captures. And um, Rachel Chavkin, our stage director, was also very involved in the process of filming it and the edit. And I think they and we were going for something that is both epic and also intimate. Like there's stuff you can see in this film that you could never see even from the best seat in the house. Like, there's close-ups and there's like facial emotion from these just master actors that you couldn't see from any seat in the house. But there also is this sense of we were very inspired by music and concert documentaries like Stop Making Sense and Last Waltz and Woodstock, because Hadestown is sung through entirely. It's all music, and so it feels like it does belong in the world of concert language. Um, and I think that Brett and Rachel wanted to also not lose sight of it as an event. So you can feel the audience. You never lose sight of the fact that it's happening live and it's happening in a room. But also you get this like micro access to what's happening emotionally for the characters. So I feel really so thrilled about how it turned out and excited to share it.
Exciting. Is there anything after this long journey that you find still very distinctly Vermont about the show?
Great question. Um, Yeah, so I mean, I think the seasons are a big part of this story, and that seems like it's it's metaphorical. It's there is a sort of the goddess Persephone is the goddess of the seasons and of balance in nature, and you do get the sense of the elements and then the coming of the spring and the summer and what that feels like, and that really is something I think in Vermont we feel those things in a real way. We got to get firewood. Eurydice says it multiple times. We have to get firewood. And then when the summertime comes, it's like you got to drink it. I mean, I say this because it's end of August now. You got to like drink the dregs of it as fast as you can because it's not going to be around for that long. And there's something also, I think, about the seasons of life and Orpheus and Eurydice, but Orpheus the dreamer, it represents this springtime of life and this youthful quality of like coming up fresh and seeing the world and saying this we could do better. Hey, we could do better. And then there is also this inevitable tragic arc of him growing older and kind of seeing too much. And by the time it comes to his final tests. He's seen too much and he can no longer, he sort of joined the ranks of the jaded at that point, which I think you see in the ruined marriage of Hades and Persephone, and the question of, is there a springtime for them? Like, could there be redemption for them? Um, and then also, like, I was raised by hippies and like a lot of folk music, a lot of community spirited ethos here. And I think that is all, it's all in this music and in the sort of communal storytelling spirit of the show.
A little bit of the bread and puppet but spirit
Yes.
also. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Aeneas, you've been very generous. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you for having me.
Well, thank you.
Before we start, I'd like a couple of my team members to come down so we can basically collect our history and maybe reduce it to one on each side so we can get somebody to come down. Oh, thank you. There we go. Come on down.